Hello and welcome to Think Watercolour. For today's demonstration, I'm going to work from this photo that I took on a recent trip to Morganporth Beach in Cornwall. I want to show how to add figures to create a stronger feeling of scale in your painting. And I've sketched the scene loosely based on the photo, and I've repositioned the dog walker in the distance to the foreground. I'm starting with the sky using a mixture of cobalt blue and cerulean blue. The image is a low tide picture of the beach, and the waves are very flat and shallow, and they're showing a reflection of the blue sky. So I'm going to use the same blue to put in a few strips of reflection in the shallow breaking waves. I think the tide was just finished going out, so very shallow waves. Some of the strips of the breaking waves are a little bit grayer in look because they're very shallow, and the colour changes because of the colour of the beach beneath the waves. So just greying the blue a little bit, and for some more strips of reflection. Just leaving a gap for the edge of the breaking waves where the water is foaming white, and lightening the colour towards the distance. Distant colours tend to be lighter in the painting, so just adding a little bit of water for that. Again, it adds a little bit of aerial perspective to add distance and depth to your painting. Just using a little bit of Van Dyke brown with some burnt sienna for some of the darker patches of the sand where the sand's still quite wet, where the waves have lapped across it. And then varying the tonal values, I'm using some raw sienna here as well, just to create a variety of hues on the beach, dropping in some blue as well, just to suggest the sand showing through the waves as they're breaking. I'm just dropping in a little bit of raw sienna into that wave as it's running up the shore. Just adding, as I said before, just adding a variety of tonal values and shades and hues. Just mixed up a small amount of yellow ochre, very weak for the distant sand. It's a little bit lighter. And as we get closer, just mixing it in with the raw sienna, so that the beach, the part of the beach nearest to us, is going to be darker. Just adding a patch of blue there where the sand is still very wet and reflecting the sky a little bit. Again, just darkening that foreground sand while it's still wet, just dropping in some more pigment. I want it to be darker, but I want the change to be subtle, so it's not too dark, but it's just, I think I've got it just about right. For the sea, I'm using a mixture of Prussian blue with a touch of sap green, just to green it a little bit so that it stands out from the blue of the sky. And in the photograph it's quite green, so the sea can look very green sometimes. Leaving patches for the breaking waves. I'm just dropping in a little bit more of that weak Van Dyke brown mix, just to darken that patch of sand. It's very wet in the photograph and reflecting a little bit of light, so just trying to recreate that. This is all now dry anyway, so I'm happy to go over it with some more colour to strengthen some of the areas. And as you can probably see, I'm trying to make sure that I leave the white edge of the wave where it's foaming a little bit as it runs up the beach. Again, dropping a little bit more blue in just to darken that foreground a little bit. This is Saunders Waterford 300-gram paper, by the way. The foreground's dried a little bit light, so I'm just adding a little bit more colour to it. Just trying to get the balance right. I'm just lifting out a little bit with the damp brush, just to suggest some reflections. For the distant hillside and cliffs at the other side of the bay, I'm just using some sap green for the grass on top of the cliffs, and just dropping in a little bit of jadeite green, wet in wet. This creates some darker patches. And for the actual rocks, I'm using Van Dyke brown to start with, and then dropping in a little bit of burnt sienna, wet in wet, let it all mix together. I've also mixed up a grey with some ultramarine and burnt sienna, and again dropping it all in wet at the base of the cliffs, at the edge of the bay there. Let it all blend together. Not trying to paint too much detail. It's I want to suggest it's a long way away and you can't see too much detail. There are some darker patches along the base of the cliffs where there are some deep openings in the rocks. Again, it's wet in wet, just let it blend together. Don't want any hard edges to be shown at this distance. Okay, just adding a little bit of darkness at the edge of the waves where they're breaking, and there's a little bit of white foam as well. So I've tried to leave some white paper, but I'm painting quite small, so I'll end up adding some white with some white gouache at the end of the painting. Just fading the colours out as they go into the distance. I'm just adding the figures now, and I've added a couple of figures in the mid distance. One I'm painting with a wetsuit, and a few very distant figures, very small. But you'll notice that I've got all the heads on the same level. This is what creates depth in the painting. When you're painting figures, when you're standing at ground level, the heads will always be at the same level, unless they're children, of course. So I've just got a couple of figures in the distance there, just adding a little bit of colour to that. No detail, just a few marks. And for the person in the wetsuit, I've just added a bodyboard, just to suggest that someone's just coming out of the sea, having spent some time surfing the waves. Just mixed up a little bit of flesh colour, quite dark. It'll dry lighter, just to suggest some legs and heads in the distance. Same for the foreground figure, just adding a head looking down towards the dog. Put the head at a slight angle in that foreground figure. And as I said before, if you look at the heads, they're all at the same level. and it creates that feeling of depth in your painting. And moving the dog walker to the foreground has helped to create that feeling of depth in the painting and scale. That's the main thing. You've got an idea of the scale of the place with having a figure closer to us in the foreground. Just putting a little bit of reflection, not too much, just a hint of reflection of the foreground figure in the wet sand where the waves just rolled in. Same with the dog, just paint the dog and then add a little bit of reflection. No real detail, just a hint that it's there. I'm just using white gouache now just to paint the edges of those waves, just to lighten them up a little bit. I've managed to retain the whiteness of the paper in a lot of places, but same with the guy's shirt, the reflection. When you're using white gouache, try and use it as thick as possible, as neat as possible, because it will retain its whiteness when it dries then. Just adding a few touches to the foreground wave. Just keeping it very simple, just making sure I get the edge of that wave all the way down into the distance. Again, it helps to create that feeling of depth in your painting. This is quite a small sketch, and it's just a demonstration sketch, and do have a go at this sort of thing. It's a great way to practice your skills without wasting too much paper. At the end of the day, it's just a piece of paper and some coloured water, so try not to be precious about doing these sketches. Just have some fun and enjoy your painting. Just adding a few patches of seaweed left on the shore where the tide's gone out. This is a very popular beach for surfers and bodyboarders because it's such a very flat beach. There are no sudden drops. It's a really nice beach to spend a day on. Just decided to add some seagulls, just for a bit of interest. Using white gouache to start with, I'll add some black just to detail them a little bit so they stand out. Not too many, just a few. I always try and do odd numbers. It always seems to look more balanced, so I think I've painted 5 in the distance there. Just adding a touch of black just to outline some of the bodies and some of the detail on the birds. I just felt it needed another seagull just wading in the shallows, and decided to put it in line with that red figure in the distance. It just lines up quite nicely with the rule of thirds. It just brings the eye down. It's just a little bit of a device to help the viewer's eye travel around the painting a little bit. It's literally a touch of white and white reflection and a little bit of black. And you're suggesting a seagull. No detail really. And I think I'm pretty much done. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this useful. Adding figures can really help to create depth in a painting like this. Do give the video a like if you enjoyed it. It really helps with YouTube spreading the word to other viewers. If you're not a subscriber, do subscribe and hit the notification bell for future videos. I do try to post every week to 10 days, but sometimes I don't manage it. I've been on holiday, so a little bit delayed this time. And once more, thanks for watching.